Hello, this is USCF expert Bingjie Liu, and this is my second video on the Queen's Gambit declined. So to review, the Queen's Gambit declined is this variation: d4, d5, c4, and either c6 or e6. So let's start with e6. After e6, I plays knight f3. Let's look at this variation for this video. Black plays knight f6. I've played mostly in the amateur level with people ratings from 800 to 2000 and 2100, maybe a few 2200s, and they like to play knight f6, or sometimes this move, bishop b4 check. Something I would like to say about this position is that there's so many possibilities: knight f6, knight to f6 here, or bishop to b4 check here. It's a good way to give your opponent room to make mistakes, and that's how you beat someone at chess. I've heard of people who says they can't believe they made such a mistake. That was so simple. How could they miss it? But usually, it's the only way you can win at chess is when your opponent doesn't notice that he's making a big mistake, even when he usually notices these big mistakes. Okay, so let's look at one variation and one game I remember. Knight f6, knight c3, bishop b4, bishop g5. You play castle here. e3. I think he played this move. Bishop d3, c6, castle. Rook e8. Here I play this move because the scope of his bishop is very limited. His bishop has no objectives on b4, so he will have to move to a place where it's more useful. And sometimes people don't know how to do that at the amateur level when you're rated 800. So he plays a move like b5. Here I said, thank you, I'll take the pawn, the extra pawn. c6, c takes b4, bishop takes b5, pinning this knight. I think he counterattacked with rook b8, but then I just took this knight, exchange when you're up. When you're playing an 800 where people with rating below 1600, you usually should exchange when possible if you're a pawn up. A good number of them, they're afraid to be playing a pawn down, and they'll play conservatively, meaning defensively. So when they're playing defensively, you attack, and this is usually how you win against someone lower rated than 1600. So in this position, black cannot take on d7, because if black takes on d7, bishop will take on d8, take the queen on d8. So he will have to play this move. Bishop takes d7. Why not queen takes d7? Queen takes d7. White can double your pawns if you were playing black by taking on f6. G takes f6. And then a move like knight g3. Why knight g3? Knight g3's purpose is really simple. He wants to play knight h5, next move. It doesn't matter what black plays. Black can play a move like this, bishop d6, which I think is the best move, because it stops black from gaining tempo, stops white from gaining tempo by playing a3, and then bishop d6, then b4. If he plays bishop d6, I think knight h5, you'll have to move the bishop again. And then you can play knight h4. pause the video if you need time to see why knight h4 was played. Remember, the goal of the chess game is to checkmate your opponent. So, okay, I hope you pause the video. So the move is, if rook takes b2 or some move like that, you play queen g4 check, king f8 or h8 is his only choice. Say h8, then queen g7 checkmate. In chess, you want to look for easy ways to win, and I think a lot of people can use that advice. A move like knight h4 wins in 2 moves if your opponent's not careful. When you're playing against an 800, there's a good chance that he's not going to be careful. But on the other hand, there could be a 1500 that's played in his first tournament, so you have to be careful anyway. If he plays bishop h6, you still play queen g4 check, followed by queen g7 checkmate. If he plays bishop f8, he's no longer defending f6, so he can take the pawn. And this is called the royal fork, or a family fork. It's attacking the king, the rook, and also the queen on d7. And of course, you take the queen after the king goes to g7 or h8. G7 or h8. Say he goes to h8, you take the queen. Bishop takes. Now you can play a move like this to continue attacking the f7 pawn. He'll have to spend a turn to defend it, but sometimes 800 level players don't see that, and they'll take this pawn. 800 take this pawn because for many of them, they just see what they can capture and they just capture it. So you can probably use this. Queen takes f7, attacking the d7 bishop. Remember, the d7 bishop's also defending this rook, so he can't move off to c8. And if he moves somewhere on this diagonal, then that's it. Then you should trade rooks. And if he doesn't want to trade, let's say he trades, that will help you. The bishop's on c6, so you cannot put your rook on b7 to checkmate him yet. But you can play this move. Rook takes. You can play queen c7 in the future. He'll have a hard time finding good moves in this position, because if he moves the rook, you take this pawn. If he moves the bishop, he can't move to d7 or b5 because you take it with the queen on d7, or you take it with the rook on b5. Let's say he makes a move like this, bishop a4, because he has no moves to play. Then you just outweighted him and you played rook b7, and you're going to checkmate him in one move. If rook e7, take this or checkmate. Okay, so here are some of my tips for playing the Queen's Gambit Declined. This is my experience. I've played many 1600s and below in my chess career, and this is a good way to play against them, because a good number of them play the same way. I don't know why. Thanks for listening and paying attention. This is part 2 of the Queen's Gambit Declined series. Tips.